Monster Hunter Wilds biggest controversy yet.
Look at what they took from us. Look at it. Examine, if you
I know you're not about to start talking about butt, bro.
will, the cowardice at play. The developers at the House of Monster Hunter stealing from you, from all of us, the once provocatively deliberate camera angle and crawl animation of our hunters scampering
I never noticed we were crawling sideways. What?
through a narrow cave path or overhang. It is, in a word, out.
No, 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 no. Turn the light on so I can actually see the bull. Hold on, let me not curse yet, but let me see. Need the light on. See the actual. There's no way, man. There's no way.
Outrageous. It is un-Monster Hunter-like, and if one's IQ was low enough to make the Antarctic summer seem toasty, one might even blame it on wokiness. I mean,
My God, why?
awkwardly staring at the wriggling splay of bums and thighs in this game.
Oh, it was perfect. It was perfect. Down to the last molecule.
About monster hunting. Don't we deserve a little respite from the stresses of the hunt? Aren't we owed a little titillation to balance out all of
Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to
violence?
see it anymore.
Why have the Monster Hunter devs stolen from us these fleeting moments of bum-based joy? I mean, really? Who the heck crawls through a tube sideways, scraping your hip along the ground? It's ridiculous. It's appalling to have a basic tradition of Monster Hunter be nerfed like this for no reason.
Oh my
I,
God.
for one, will not stand for it. Boycott this game. Don't.
Okay, so they gave us the sexy female walk in World and Iceborne, and then they took it away from us in Rise and Sunbreak, and now the males and females both walk the same, just like the older games. And then they finally bring it back in Wilds, and this is what we get. Okay. Understandable. Thank you. Have a good day.
buy it until the devs.
I was gonna buy the premium ultra super deluxe edition for $110. I want a refund on my pre-order.
Backtrack on this ridiculous decision. Hello again, I am Blunty, and that was...
I didn't even
for the
notice this.
record,
This is crazy.
sarcasm, of course.
Oh my God.
Touch of derisive banter, mild mockery, a gentle jibe, if you will. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was, very honestly, truly shocked to see this weird and frankly unnecessary change to the animations of our hunters when you do crawl through a little tight space like that, and confused by it. Because, let's face it, Capcom do seem to enjoy allowing a fair share of titillation.
How is nobody talking about this online on Twitter or Reddit or like I'm not seeing anything like nobody's been talking about this. How is that even possible?
In the game, they've never shied away from it. Everything from just frankly unnecessarily hot NPCs,
Yes.
all the way down to the traditionally silly and practically skimpy battle. All the way down to the traditionally silly and practically skimpy battle armor, and the intrinsic traditionally silly and practically.
Okay, never mind. You can take my money.
Necessary, silly and practically skimpy windows in said armor, and the intrinsically monster huntery thigh windows in said armor. Why suddenly do they get so shy about...
What'd that say? Oh my God, rewind faster. Go back. You know what? This is too slow.
huntery thigh window?
Bulky ass, padded armor to withstand the cold. Gratuitous thigh gap that ruins the theme to withstand the cold. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, what do you like? What do you want, man? All right, just what do you like? They gave us the option to play, to have both armor sets now for both of the genders. So, what else? Like, no.
In said armor.
Look, some of them were good. Okay,
an
I didn't care.
shot of our own hunters. It's weird, right? But as a framing device for this video to then talk about what the controversy will be in Wilds, it's a fun setup. What singular mechanic will the player community land on to be the dividing line, the figurative battlefield between those who like pineapple on their pizza versus people with functioning taste receptors?
Yeah, that should taste good, alright.
And personal dignity. Because there's always at least one in every game, isn't there? In every generation, in every title, in every expansion, there's that one thing that we all argue about, isn't there? So I wonder what will be the big one for Wilds. I have a couple of ideas about that. Maybe it'll be about...
I know exactly what's going to get argued for Wilds, and it's the same reason that World and Iceborne also had this argument. Sorry, Iceborne. Iceborne's biggest problem, one of its biggest problems, was the clutch claw. People liked it and didn't like it at the same time. It was great, but it was also ass. Wilds, on the other hand, they have focus mode now, and that's going to be... I feel like that's going to be the same thing from what I played so far. Like, there are good parts of it, and there are bad parts of it. The bad parts include the fact that you're probably going to enable motion controls on your, gyro controls on your controller if you're playing something like Charge Blade. Because you can't move some of the weapons, you can't even move your camera while you're attacking in focus mode. You have to, if you're on a controller, you have to take your thumb off of, the whatever the buttons to control the analog stick so you can switch the camera around. But if you have gyro controls, you can obviously attack while you're changing the camera, redirecting the focus reticle to wherever you're trying to aim with. And so that makes it really difficult for something like Charge Blade, where you have to hold the button down in the chainsaw mode, if you want to make it more accurate, and so you're hitting all the targets, without missing any shots. You're gonna have to use gyro controls or something, or mouse and keyboard, or probably like a claw grip or something like that. So that's the only issue I really have with focus mode. It's great, but they've also limited how much the hunter can turn, the radius that the hunter can turn while attacking from World and Iceborne, where you could turn a lot more in the other games in World and Iceborne and Sunbreak, but Wilds, you can't really turn a lot while you're attacking because they kind of want you to use focus mode. So it's like, it's really good for what it does. The implementation is really great. It's just the fact that you cannot attack while controlling the camera at the same time with focus mode enabled. So that kind of sucks a little bit, because I've seen a lot of fights where people are literally just like in focus mode the entire time, 90% of the fight. So it's pretty good, it's really useful. So I feel like that's going to be a big issue. So we'll have to see if they do anything about that, because I doubt they're going to change anything this late into the game, but we'll have to see in the expansion that they have for Wilds what they do with it.
About how they're changing how food and food buffs work. Maybe it'll be something to do with the massive changes to multiplayer's underpinning mechanics necessitated by the new, more fluid open field systems and playstyles. I think most likely, though, it'll be about the new wound mechanic and associated targeting systems. I've already seen some rumbling about it out of the beta, alongside claims.
I think wounding is fine. It might pose a problem. If I don't even think it's really a problem. I think it's only a problem for people that are trying to get fast runs. But even then, if people are trying to get fast runs, they're going to coordinate on who pops a wound. So in multiplayer, when people are popping a wound, it's going to obviously take into effect. It's gonna take other people's shots away, probably, or somebody's like spamming wound pops. Maybe that could be annoying. I'm not sure. It hasn't been too bad so far. They might, I don't know. I feel like maybe if wound pops were not created as often, it would pose less of a problem, but I don't know how it's, I don't know. I don't really think the wound system's as bad as like the focus mode issue going on here, to be honest. I think it could be a little annoying if somebody's just spamming the wound pops and you don't get a single if you miss a shot. I don't know. Because I think the monster flinches whenever you get wound pop, so maybe somebody's trying to do like a big attack and he misses or something, but I don't. It hasn't been that big of an issue for me so far.
That it dumbs things down too much, makes things too easy, or some other such change-induced fear reaction. And on first blush, I actually really like the new system. It's a near-perfect blending, in my opinion, of what they tried to do with the tenderizing systems in Iceborne, paired with the curio-afflicted weak part targeting and burst damage from Sunbreak. Instead of having to break combat flow to cause a weak spot, a la the Clutch Claw, you're naturally just creating wounds by attacking the same body part repeatedly.
Yeah, it's great.
Which makes absolute sense for creating a wound.
Great.
Something you'll be naturally doing anyway in the standard flow of battle, so you'd have to change your playstyle just to do it. Then you can burst the wound with a special attack for a big pop of damage all at once, or you can just continue to fight like you have been and engage with the normal flow of combat and just treat it as a weakened spot for extra standard damage.
It's good that you don't even get. Excuse me, I'm hungry, but it's good that you don't even get punished by not popping the wound. You still get benefits from not popping the wound, which is great. Because eventually it's gonna pop, I think, anyways. So it's great that it does that, you know. But yeah, it doesn't. I like that it doesn't ruin the flow of the hunt. It's so good. It's so good.
Which then, after you've done enough damage, bursts on its own. It's far more natural, more inherent, more immersive, and absolutely more fluid than either Iceborne's Clutch Claw tenderizing stuff or Sunbreak's self-generating curio blobs. I think it's a super clever system, but I bet it will cause arguments for an age to come, especially in multiplayer, where certain weapons will want to monopolize early bursting of the wounds for special move buffs. Looking at you, bow users. Yeah,
Oh my god. All the ranged weapons are gonna pop the wounds so easy. Except for Heavy Bowgun. I think Heavy Bowgun takes a while to pop the wound, but like Light Bowgun and Bow, yeah, they're gonna pop that real quick and real frequent. And get ready for that. Whoa, we're in it. We're in it for a while, boys. It's gonna be a good 5 years.
I can absolutely see this being a hot button topic for a long time to come, much like how the Clutch Claw mechanic from Iceborne still, to this very day, has people talking and arguing about how it affected gameplay. But for context, and as a little reminder of, a few other things people freaked out about when it arrived as a change to the previously established mechanics of Monster Hunter, and now many of them go utterly without embittered comment or even without notice, for the most part just accepted as part of the game, taken for granted even. When World first launched, players were very angry about how, for the first time ever, you could keep moving while consuming a potion, or indeed any other consumable buff
I remember
from
that.
item. See,
Oh my
before
God.
World, if you didn't know, consuming a
World made things more convenient, so people thought it made the game easier. I'm gonna tell you right now, as somebody that's been playing for a long, long time, I still get my ass handed to me by Fatty. And like I can kick his ass, but there are just some times where he just, he's got no chill. Nobody's safe. And if someone like me can kick his ass in like, 8 minutes, heroics, that doesn't mean, like there are certain monsters that are really hard. Yeah, there's a lot of monsters that are really easy, but I don't think the quality of life really made the game so much easier that it's damn near like, for babies or anything. Like, come on now. I remember when that happened, that was such like all the quality of life changes and all the veterans being pissed and shit and pissing their pants and all the new players getting torn away from the game because they didn't want to hang around these elite players, and it made the community a little bit more toxic than it should have been. But it's all good. It's a small amount of them that are just stubborn. So it's all good. The community's still great.
an item like a potion would cement you on the spot for quite
They're just
a long
loud.
eating and then flexing animation. It was very high risk just to heal, and being able to walk while drinking.
Remember also, you could, if you were in the older games, if you needed to heal, you could just get the hell out of there and go to a different area and spam whatever you wanted to do and just heal yourself. Like they're acting like there weren't other like things that made the game easier or like workarounds for this type of shit. Like it was still things you could do.
A potion, and even more shockingly, being able to cancel out of the action for consumption, or even cancel out of the weapon sharpening animation, was heavily derided by old schoolers as making the game too easy and nerfing the risk-reward of it all. Of course, what people forgot in this argument for the large part was in older games, the zones were separate spaces you'd load into separately, so changing a zone meant complete escape from the aggro of the monster, and people could use that to get a safe space to heal or sharpen in perfect peace. So walking while healing was a mechanical change made to the game because, well, World didn't have those loading zones. It was a one single fluid map the monster could follow you around in. And that open field map design was, by the way, something people loved about World. I also remember people whining loudly about having to grind investigations for decorations in World, only to have just as many people whine just as loudly when investigations and track gathering was absent entirely from the next game.
Okay, hold on. Whoa. Did people forget about 4 Ultimate? Did people forget about that? Did people forget about level 140s? No, there's no way. Look, you're probably there's no way. There's no way, man. Did they forget about 4 Ultimate? Trying to get to level 140 and grinding that for multiple months? Oh no, there's no way. It's not possible.
Well, it took itself a little more serious.
Those monsters took forever, man. They were hard.
Than previous games, more grounded, more gritty.
Did people also forget about Generations Ultimate? Oh my god, those deviants took forever. What? It was oh my god, bro. Every single one of these games has a grind to it, man. That's just how it is. It's just how it is. Some people like it, some people don't. Look, I like it sometimes I don't, you know, but just don't forget now about the older games. don't start that.
And with that came a lack of the wackier weapon designs and armors, and the lack of visual creativity and diversity and variety in the weapons.
Okay. The chicken drumsticks for the dual blades I can agree with.
Weapons was heavily criticized in
that was lame. They should have fired whoever came up with that.
I love me some goofy weapons and armor. And I do think Monster Hunter is at its very best when it.
I think they didn't. I think they couldn't because they probably didn't have time to. I don't know. It was a good concept to start from bone all the way up to the real actual weapon, like, and then maybe in the middle have like bone with the parts of the the monster, and then final upgrade or like later down you get the actual weapon unique, concept and design and stuff. But we didn't get that for all of them, so that was kind of lame.
Refuses to take itself too
It would have been a good idea if it was executed.
And here's a personal one. I hate
properly
the scout flies in World. They're way too visually obnoxious. They get in the way on certain maps. They're near useless for the one and only intended purpose of a navigational aid. Burn for your crimes against navigational ease, ancient forest.
Oh my God.
Burn for your crimes, your very sins against getting someplace.
Okay, let's be honest for a second. Scout flies in World were like, it's like using Apple Maps instead of Google Maps. Like, not a lot of people do it, right? Because it's just not as good. Google Maps is just so much more accurate, and like Apple Maps just sometimes doesn't know what the heck it's doing or where it's taking you. So I just thought like it's similar. So
I will argue at length about how much frustration the scout flies caused me personally in World. And don't even get me started on the floods of entirely undeserved hatred for the handler. It's bewildering.
Whoa, undeserved. Excuse me, pard. Undeserved. I'm not even gonna start with that. No, I think everybody everybody knows why we don't like her. Okay, we don't even start that.
I'm not even kidding. I mean, sure, she has astonishingly poor impulse control that keeps repeatedly getting her
She's
in trouble.
Dumb.
As a damsel in distress, which
She's
is
really dumb.
Not a great trope.
And
it's
corny.
A miracle she lived to see adulthood, but I really do like her as a character. She's fun. She's joyful. Doesn't quite make up for the lack of a giant frozen fish for a weapon as far as goofiness goes. In the
Okay, that
game,
thing's
but,
awesome.
You know,
It's a
of course, the
classic,
cherry on
man.
top of World's controversies was the clutch claw, which I'm guessing few, if any, people watching this will need full context for that argument. We've all heard it enough, haven't we? And then Rise came along, and there were so many arguments about the Rampage quests and their mechanics. Personally, I liked them. I wasn't sad to see them left out of the expansion. When
They weren't that bad.
arrived, I didn't love them that much. I never did understand the absolute loathing some people had for them. If you engaged with the systems properly, it was a pretty fun gimmick, in my opinion. Then there was the Spirit Bird stuff in Rise. Again, for some reason, people hated on them.
Okay, no. The spear birds were awful. Awful, awful, awful. Their intention was for you to get spirit birds along the way to the monster fight, right? That would have been fine if they didn't have the health birds for your max health on difficult monsters. Now you can get a full spirit bird buff on certain quests, you know, arenas or whatever, Amatsu, shit like that. But if you're doing investigations where the monster has a huge amount of health, hits super hard, you want full health, right? And you don't want to go gathering spirit birds for like a good couple minutes, maybe like a minute, 2 minutes. You know, you probably think getting them along the way, you know, fight the monster a little bit, get some more along the way when he moves to different areas, fine. But a lot of people don't trust themselves to not die the first time they're fighting the monster before it moves to another area. So they like to get the spirit birds before, you know, they fight it, as like to start the quest, you know. So that was annoying, having to go around all over the place. You had to memorize where to go, you know, the fastest routes, and it was so annoying. Like, it was so annoying. Like, look at this. He doesn't even have full health. He's fighting Vastrax. Like, I just want to be able to have full health, or at least let me slot it into my armor at least. I don't want to go gathering spirit birds or wasting slots in my armor and skills just so that I can get random spirit birds every now and then, or get a bigger increase from spirit birds. It was dumb. That was dumb. Come on, like, nobody liked that. All the other stuff, like the Rampage stuff, was okay. You know, it was all right. It wasn't as much hunting as much as it was using the ballistic stuff and cannons and shit. And then that kind of got boring after a while because it was the same. It's not like they introduced the Rampages, but they didn't really have, I don't know, like, it just felt like if it was like it felt like a different kind of game. Like, you only kind of used your weapon whenever there was like a gong ringing or something, so you had extra damage. So it was kind of like you were just using the side stuff the whole time and just like sitting there pew 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 like over and over. Like, it's just, I don't know. It could have been a nice idea, but it was all right. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too great either to grind
aggressively. I never found it much of an issue. Basically, every single map had a pretty optimal path from camp to the various monster zones that you had plenty of spirit birds to easily collect, just as a matter of course of getting there if you needed them for the buffs. It took like 45 seconds. I still remember seeing people going, "Oh, I don't want to spend 5 minutes collecting spirit birds."
No, you're not going to spend 5 minutes.
5 minutes? What are you talking about?
No.
It's just 45 seconds, a minute max, and you're already using that time to get to the monster in the first place. What are you talking about?
No, it usually you get them along the way, like I said, but you're probably not going to be full health by the time you get to it, and probably, you know, that just kind of bugs some people. You know, it's a little things that kind of matter when it comes to spirit birds.
And even then, once you build a halfway decent armor set, or indeed just got good enough at the game, you could forget the spirit birds existed entirely and not bother.
Yeah, but that's end game. That's like end game stuff. That's not why you're playing to get to that point.
Collecting them deliberately. I certainly don't anymore. Or what's more baffling to me, people complaining about not having to micromanage environmental stuff with the lack of hot and cold drinks. A mechanic I always found tedious at best. It didn't make the game more challenging to have that system in there. It didn't feel more immersive to keep chugging some magical fireproofing lemonade every 5 minutes while fighting inside a volcano with magical, paralyzing weapons and big dinosaurs and stuff. My immersion, the realism of the game wasn't enhanced by a magical fireproofing lemonade that let me survive standing on literal magma. It was just a fiddly mechanic that was annoying for no good reason. I was glad to see it gone. Although apparently in Wilds we're getting it back in some form. There'll be some food buffs that we'll need to manage. Not
food buffs
drinks anymore, but we'll have to make a special meal to fireproof us or something perhaps. Still waiting on seeing the full details of that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Rise, in the eyes of some people, ruined invading monsters by turning them from a, desperately dangerous problem to have into a burst of free damage with the new mounting and puppeteering mechanics, the wirebug riding thing. And that one I kind of softly agree with. The arrival of an invading basil goose, for example, in World was a bum-puckering moment. And in Risebreak, the exact...
Oh my god, I still remember the theme song. Oh my god. Oh, Beetlejuice.
Same situation, the arrival of a basil, it was met with a giddy grin. Hooray, here comes a ton of damage I can do. And yes, it did ruin invaders in that sense. They didn't feel like a threat anymore rather than a gift. But it was also replaced by a fun mechanic anyway that you could use to your advantage. So, 6 one, half dozen the other. Don't think it made the game worse or better, just made it different. And of course in Rise, even more compounded with Sunbreak's additions to the system, significant additions to the system, the wirebugs. Much maligned by some, a few, perhaps, once more, for making the game too easy, quote unquote, by letting you escape a monster's attack too easily by zerping out of the way, Spider-Man style, or making the hunter too fast, too mobile, too powerful.
Well, that's kind of what they were going for, right? They weren't going for slow and methodical as World and Iceborne. They kind of wanted to make it more arcade-like, and that's what they got. And they ended up with a really, really fun combat system that I enjoyed a lot. I enjoy the wirebugs a lot. I enjoy being able to be quicker in this game a lot. The hit slowdown was not too great in this game, but I was able to overlook it. The only issue I had really with the wirebugs was the fact that they were kind of like hunter arts, like they had cooldowns and stuff, whereas in World, if you wanted to do a special move like, I don't know, like a SAD, well no, I shouldn't say that because you can still, or like a longsword helmbreaker, you only had to fill the gauge up to red, and then you could do the ult. It would go back down. You just filled that back up. But it was like, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's the same with this because you just have to wait for the wirebugs to come back, and then you have to be in red at the same time. Getting to red is really easy. Okay. I like the wirebugs. I take that back. I like the wirebugs. Now that I think about it, I really did. And eventually, you got to a point where you just had pretty much infinite wirebugs, oh god, that was crazy. That was broken. That was busted.
Again, all of that was balanced. Monsters were faster too, more mobile. And
don't forget that, just because you can wirebug out of an attack doesn't mean you're not going to get smacked up a second time. All right? You know how many times I've wirebugged out of an attack only to find, something like I was in the middle of a combo getting wirebugged out, and I still got slapped around and probably died in midair. Like, you got to be careful with sometimes wirebugging too early.
By the time you got to late in endgame, especially Sunbreak's endgame, you'd be heavily punished by using the wirebugs to try and escape certain attacks, or indeed counter at the wrong time instead of using some other evasion technique.
Yeah.
The harder monsters were designed specifically to punish
they were smart
use of the wirebug mechanics.
They didn't play around with that.
I hope it's clear by now. There's always arguments about any and every new major mechanic, and even some minor ones. Sometimes it's just about people having hostile aversions to change, any change. And, I get that. Some people are just like that. It's part of how their brains are wired up. Sometimes it's very valid concerns about how something changes the traditional nature of the game, or at least the imagined traditions of this ever-evolving series that changes its quote-unquote traditions every iteration. And I do earnestly wonder what those topics will be for Wilds. The wound and targeting mechanics is an obvious one, because we've been hands-on with it already in the form of the beta, and again in a week and a half now in the second beta. But I wonder what else we'll be drawing lines in the sand about. What don't we know yet that they've changed that's going to meaningfully alter how we engage with the game, in good or bad ways, and how are we going to argue about it? How split down the middle is the community going to be about certain things? Several weapons, for example, have big changes. Maybe even as big as the hugely controversial reworking of the hunting horn in Rise, which infuriated.
Oh my god, people hated that.
A lot of long-term.
That was so split. Half of the people hated that. Half of the people loved it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love hunting horn and Rise and Sunbreak. I love that. You can break dance on a monster. That shit was crazy, man. Oh, that shit was crazy. I loved it. I loved it.
Hunting horn players, but I found super duper fun.
I thought it was so fucking cool.
After Rise and Sunbreak, when I went back to World, I tried the hunting horn there in that game for the first time, and I found it fun there too. But it is a very different weapon between those two games. And in Wilds, it's changing slightly again. It's not quite like Wild, it's certainly not like Rise, but I had a lot of fun with it in the beta.
Yeah,
Ranged weapons are getting heavy reworks too. Lance feels like an entirely new animal. I had fun using the Lance for literally the first time ever, and while Switch Axe felt pretty good in the beta to me, apparently there's still more changes happening to it by release. It's all part of the fun of a new Monster Hunter game. The only trick to it is not getting your panties entirely knotted up. Speaking of panties, I recorded this footage in the first beta. As you can see, I had to crawl back and forth a few times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
Oh my
it really
God.
was a super odd choice. I was shocked by it. I was like, what do they do to the crawling animation? What the hell, man? Why?
I forgot this whole video started off with this freaking ass. What? You know, it's kind of ironic that this is so controversial, and it's all about ass. And this guy doesn't even like have an ass take. It's actually a good take. This take's not even ass. It's actually pretty good. I think this is a problem we need to fix right now.
I still remember the very first time I got an awkward upskirt on my first Hunter's manhams in World, and then again and again and again revisited that animation every single time we visit the special arena.
I'm sorry, that was
especially
corny.
when you're crawling behind
so
another
corny.
hunter who may have even more
I don't
skimpier
know.
armor on you,
Jesus.
staring right up there at Jaxie. It's all weird and embarrassing, and it make me feel strange things. And I kept waiting for someone else to notice this, to talk about this change in Wilds, but as far as I've seen so far, no one else seems to care. It can't be just me, right?
I didn't even
It
notice.
must not be just me. Please
I had no
don't let it be
idea.
just me. I mean, so, I always felt mildly embarrassed by staring at the Jaxie of my hunter or someone else's hunter, but still, it's just traditional. It's the fiddling with traditions.
I need my ass back,
Bring
man.
back the splayed crawling.
Please.
Hashtag bring back the Jaxie. Bumholes for all. Thank you for watching. I'm Blunty. I'll catch you next time. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling away up above there.
Amazing. Some good takes, some bad takes, some regular takes. Great video, man. Great video. Yeah, bring the ass back. Bring the ass. Please. I'm begging you. I don't want to have to get a refund on my pre-order.